A2000 fight. Let's jump right in with 6 gig. Hey buddy, you all right? This is Red Dead Redemption 2. We're going to go into the settings, and we're going to go to graphics settings. The great thing about this game is it does a pretty good job at globally adjusting the graphics based on the hardware capabilities. So even though this bar shows medium, we've got a lot of things on ultra. Now that we're into the game, it took a lot of getting through cutscenes to get into the action, if you'd call this action. We're really just two horses riding next to each other. But you can see there's quite a bit of GPU usage on this game. Getting up into the 90s in the percentile, we're at 97 right now. Allocated VRAM, close to 5 gigs, just under 5 gigs of dedicated VRAM that's actually being used. So a little bit more of a gap between dedicated and allocated. So they're ready for more VRAM usage, but right now it's just about 4 gigs. About 11.5 gigs of RAM is being used right now. I haven't seen it go any higher than 4 gigabytes. It's just under 4 gigabytes right now and just really holding true. So I'm going to see if I can get into a firefight or some kind of action rather than just riding a horse, and we'll see if it takes up a little bit more of the VRAM. Oh, that's nice. Useful information pops up right behind my overlay. All right, now I'm in a firefight. I just shot B to reload. Okay. I just shot quite a bit of people. And forgot to turn on the video. Oh crap. All right, now is the first time that we got to 4 gigabytes of dedicated VRAM. That's the highest that I've seen so far. On some of the cutscenes like this one, we actually get even more dedicated VRAM. Now we're at 4.1 gigs. All right. Of course, there's some more information up behind the overlay, but now we're at 4.2 gigs on dedicated VRAM, and we've allocated a little bit more as well. So far, this is the most that I've seen. All right, I put the 12 gig card in. Here we go. Now we're back in Red Dead Redemption 2, but this time with the 12 gigabyte card. And so far, we're not really allocating or dedicating any more VRAM than we were before. Everything is about the same. I'm going to go ahead and run benchmark tests just to see if maybe it was calibrated to the old card and it didn't recalibrate after installing the 12 gig card. After that benchmark test, I'm not really seeing much difference in the utilization. So it looks like for Red Dead Redemption 2, at least in this old Office PC, it's not utilizing the capabilities of the 12 gig card. All right, this is about the best VRAM usage that I've seen so far with 4.6 dedicated, 5.2 allocated. We're still not utilizing over 6 gigs. This is Forspoken. It's the demo version. Please let me know in the comments if the full version is very different in its VRAM usage. I can see why it uses a lot of VRAM. It's really pushing the CPU to 95 to 99% and only using about 70% of the GPU. Now let's see when I do some parkour. Well, there's nothing to really parkour over right now. Let me find something. Parkour. Yeah, that doesn't really have much of an effect on the GPU. The CPU is definitely a bottleneck in this game. Yeah, that's something to battle. All right. fairly close to maxing out the VRAM of this 6 gig card, but not so close that I would say there's not any wiggle room. Once I take it to standard on the image quality preset, it starts to use a little bit more VRAM and allocates a little bit more VRAM, but the frame rate drops tremendously. Even though it does look better, the frame rate makes the game feel slow, and it's playable but feels really slow. So as you can see, it's hanging out at about 30, 35 on the frame rate, and I feel like I'm just walking through some kind of thick soup. 12 gig card in, here we go. All right, here's some Forspoken gameplay again, but this time with the 12 gig card. Everything is looking about the same. I would say maybe even a little bit less allocated VRAM than with the 6 gigabyte card. So far, this game isn't really utilizing the extra VRAM on this card. Now that I've done a whole lot of parkour and ran around a lot, it does look like that caused it to allocate a little bit more VRAM and use a little bit more VRAM. So I'll keep playing and see what we can get it up to. Taking the settings from low to standard, it is allocating a little bit more VRAM than in the 6 gig card, but it's dropping the frame rate down to 30 to 35 FPS, just like in the 6 gig card. So really not much of a difference at all. And I'd say my verdict on Forspoken is it is not utilizing the capabilities of the 12 gig card. Either it's the game or the CPU. Either way, for Forspoken, you really should go with the 6 gig card if this is the one game that you're playing. But we've got more games to test, so let's get on with it. This is Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite leaves the quality preset somewhat in your hands by showing you a chart of VRAM usage. You can see your current, ideal, and max. So as you can see, I'm under the ideal on a quality preset of medium, and on high, I am over the ideal and really pushing it. So we're going to test this game first on medium settings. The great thing is this game should make it easy to see if a 12 gigabyte card can allow you to change the preset to high or ultra settings, because you have a VRAM usage bar right there. There's actually more dedicated VRAM on this than the previous, even though it is less taxing on the GPU than in Red Dead Redemption 2. There's also less RAM usage. And I'm not very good. Yeah, it looks like although this game uses less RAM and has a better frame rate and uses less of the overall GPU, there's a little bit more allocated VRAM, and there have been times I've seen the dedicated VRAM get up over 5 gigabytes. Looks like to really tax this thing, I'm going to have to increase the graphics settings from medium to high. I want to get a apples to apples comparison though with the 12 gigabyte card. So once I put the 12 gigabyte card in, I will play it on medium and high settings so we get a good comparison. All right, now I'm going to change the quality preset to high, and even though that's higher than the ideal, it's slightly under the max. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, that little chart isn't really translating into reality because we're not getting that much more dedicated VRAM, if anything. So I would have expected it to be closer to the allocated and more of a bump in allocated. All right, this is on ultra settings, and we're still not getting any more allocated or dedicated VRAM. So I'm thinking that medium settings is getting as much out of it as we can get. So we're just going to have to see how the 12 gigabyte card goes. On ultra settings, we're not getting any more allocated or dedicated VRAM. Actually a little bit less. So We're just going to have to see how the 12 gigabyte card fares. Here we go. All right, here we are in Halo Infinite with the 12 gig card, and it is recognizing all the VRAM in the 12 gig card with its cool little slider bar. So I'm going to go in here and really try to max this out, see how much we're utilizing. Okay, it looks like it's still only utilizing just under 8 gigs on the VRAM, but we have a max of 11.84. So it looks like it can utilize some of the extra capabilities of this card. We're going to see if it just talks the talk or if it can walk the walk in games. Here we go. Now for the first time, we have more than 6 gigs allocated VRAM. So all right, this is a reason to have the 12 gig card. So we finally have a game that's utilizing that. I say utilizing, that's allocated VRAM. Okay, now we're at over 6 gigs dedicated VRAM. So looks like you can make use of the 12 gig card, at least on ultra settings. I remember the 6 gig card, changing the settings up to ultra didn't really do much of anything to the VRAM, even though it said it was going to. So I would actually give the win to the 12 gigabyte card here. It's actually utilizing the VRAM. We're able to max out the settings on ultra, and the game's running great. So that's 2 wins for the 6 gigabyte card, just because the 12 gigabyte wasn't utilized in the first 2 games, but it is this time. Now we've got 1 more game left to test. This is Forza Horizon 5. Running a benchmark test, we got a suggested preset of low, which is fairly disappointing. That tells me that the CPU is dragging down the powerful A2000 a bit. In my experience, the benchmark test on this game is pretty conservative. You should be able to bump up the visual settings from low to medium to even high, possibly. Everything is very optimized. We're using about the same amount of CPU and GPU, and of the 6 gigs, we are using quite a bit of that VRAM. 10 of the 16 gigabytes of RAM as well. All right, this is Forza Horizon 5 Ultra settings, and we finally got a game that's using over 5 gigs of VRAM, 5.3 dedicated, 5.6 allocated, and about 10 gigs of RAM overall. This thing is running like a dream on this rig. So now we'll see if the card with 12 gigabytes of VRAM can actually perform even better. Ooh. All right, I did the benchmark test, this time with the 12 gig card. And again, it has a suggested preset of low. I'm gonna, again, disregard that and keep it on ultra. All right, this is Forza Horizon 5 with the 12 gig card. It looks like we are utilizing more RAM, but about the same VRAM. So I'm gonna keep driving for a little bit longer and see if that changes. All right, it looks like in Forza we're using more overall RAM, but we're not utilizing any more VRAM with the 12 gig card versus the 6 gig card. I had high hopes for this game because this game slaps, but it's only using more RAM and not VRAM for some reason. So I have to give the nod to the... I just discovered that for some things there is a higher setting than ultra. So I'm just maxing everything out. Okay, everything's all maxed out. Let's see what it does. Uh-oh. That's not a good sign. Froze up. Oh, restart required. Okay. All right, now we're restarted. We're on ultra, super, extreme, maxed out, and it's already allocating and dedicating more VRAM before we're even into the game. So let's get into the game. Since we're using over 6 gigs, this means the 12 gig card wins for Forza. Glad I found those settings because, oh my God, it scared me. Got hit by a ghost. All right. Getting out on the open road. The VRAM's holding steady at 6.9, 7.3. Yeah, so this is as good as those graphics can look. By the way, this is on a 1080p screen. So you really have to max them out to take advantage of the extra VRAM in this card, but you probably wouldn't have to if you were on a 4K screen. So, which one do you buy? Well, it depends. Forspoken and Red Dead Redemption 2 didn't appear to utilize the extra VRAM, but Halo Infinite and Forza Horizon 5 did. It appears to depend on what games you plan to play and whether or not those games will actually utilize the extra VRAM. It could possibly depend on the CPU as well, because some of these games had very high peak VRAM usage listed, but in reality, when paired with the older hardware, they didn't actually hit those peaks. So what does this all mean? It means I have to test more games. Here are the ones I'd like to test next. These are all games that have a peak VRAM usage of over 6 gigabytes, so they should necessitate the use of a 12 gigabyte card. This would really take this comparison to the next level. However, these games are expensive. My channel's self-sustaining. Right now, we just got monetized in a certain way. We're able to use Super Thanks now. If you want to support the channel directly, use the Super Thanks. Tell me what game to add and help me get it. Otherwise, it may take a while before I can accumulate these games to really do this test justice. Speaking of tests, I did a 3D Mark benchmark test of both the 6 gig and the 12 gig RTX A2000 cards right here.